This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. That was a tough loss versus the Seattle Seahawks, and I think the thing that most people, or at least I've seen most people talk about after this game and they're focusing in on, is the 3rd and 3 play calling. And I think, there's a valid debate to have on both sides of that, whether running the ball is more effective in those situations or throwing the ball is. I tend to think it matters if you're in plus or minus territory. If you're in your own territory, I don't really love the idea of throwing the ball a ton. I mean, not throwing the ball, but running the ball on 3rd and 3, because 3 yards when they know that you need it is really tough to get through the ground. It's just that extra yard, like the difference between it being a 3rd and 1 or a 3rd and 2 or a close 3rd and 2. It really does matter. And I think that, you do have to throw in those situations. If you get 4 3rd and 3s, I think you're probably throwing on at least 3 of them. And I think most teams are probably throwing on at least 3 of them. So I don't think, like, conceptually there's an issue with throwing the ball on 3rd and 3. There's an argument to be made. Yeah, even though you're in negative territory, you could have kept the clock running. But also keep in mind that the Seattle Seahawks scored on this Browns defense with like 40 seconds left to go in the game. So it wasn't very hard for this Seattle Seahawks offense to score on the Browns defense. And I think that is more my takeaway, is what is going on with the Browns defense, because now we're past the point to where I can say, oh, it was just a bad game versus the Colts. Some of this stuff seems to be reoccurring with the defense. And my point is, whatever happens on 3rd and 3 is whatever happens on 3rd and 3. But you expect that if the Seahawks get the ball on the 40-yard line in their own territory, while that's not great field position, that is enough field position to feel confident that with 2 minutes left, this defense can force either a 3 and out, if you're lucky, if you're fortunate, or at least a field goal. The fact that Seattle scored on that last drive is a huge letdown by this defense. And I understand people's instinct to attack the offense, right? Because Kevin Stefanski, he's been polarizing by some fans. Like, some fans hate him, some fans love him for whatever reason. Even though, like, I think he's probably like the least polarizing coach we've had. He's just the one coach we've kept for a while. But he's polarizing to some, and people always want to debate whether Kevin should be fired or not. Win or loss, we always want to debate whether Kevin should be fired. Every game, there's either a tweet of Kevin is the greatest coach I've ever seen in my life, or Kevin is the worst coach I've ever seen in my life. Like, and sometimes it'd be the same people tweeting this back-to-back weeks. We are way too reactionary on Kevin Stefanski. Like, and honestly, the way I see this game is this. We thought that 20 points would win this game if you were the Browns offense. We thought that this would be a low scoring game, that whoever got to 20 first was going to win. This defense gave up 17 points in the first quarter. A lot of us thought the game was over. Don't forget that. A lot of us thought the game was chalked. It looked like an ass whipping in that first quarter. But the offense battled back and just continued to battle back and battle back. Next thing you know, it's the fourth quarter, 6 minutes left. They got a lead. The fact that we thought this team could win this game is a credit to an overall effort, and I will applaud that fight. I wish that fight would have lasted 2 more minutes. It did not last the 2 more minutes it needed to. We ran out of fight at the end of those last 2 minutes. And you can easily, well, I would say you ran out of fight in the last 2 minutes, but to be fair to this team, they played a last-minute game against San Francisco. They played a last-minute game against the Colts. Like, at some point, you run out of steam when you keep playing games all the way to the tail end of it like that. At some point, you run out of steam. This was the point that they ran out of steam. So they ran out of steam this week. It's tough. This was a tough axe. I mean, I think Seattle is tied for first place in the AFC West. They're playing at the best home field advantage in the NFL, and they battled. And I think the expectation for this game for a lot of us was, hey, play well enough to have a chance to win in the fourth quarter. We'll deal with whatever happens happening. Well, they gave you a chance in the fourth quarter. Things did not go your way. PJ Walker ends up like Jamal Adams headbutts a football. It gets intercepted. Shit didn't go your way. For the last 2 weeks, stuff has gone your way if you're the Cleveland Browns. This week, it didn't. Defense fell apart at the wrong time, right? Held it down for about 3.5 quarters. But boy, that last drive, they fell apart. They absolutely fell. They gave up an easy slant. They gave up an easy screen touchdown. They were just getting carved in that last drive. Fell apart. Ran out of steam. What I want to make sure the point across I get in this video is we have to check ourselves as fans at times. And we have to ask ourselves, are we being way too reactionary? Are we reacting to these wins and losses far too hardly in both directions? And for whatever reason this year, and look, I understand Browns fans have never calmly reacted to wins or losses, but this year especially, we've been erratic. We've been absolutely erratic with our reactions. All right. Week 1, we beat Cincinnati. We feel like we going to the Super Bowl, right? We won the week 1 opener. We about to win, go to the Super Bowl, all this stuff. Week 2 comes by, play a close game to Pittsburgh. You fumble the ball in the fourth quarter. Pittsburgh wins the game. We want everybody fired. We want Deshaun Watson to get his contract voided, and we want to trade everybody. We suck. We're terrible. The season's over. They're 1-1, but the season's over, right? That's the general reaction after Monday Night Football. And honestly, I'm being nice about it. It was much worse than that. Then you come and you play Tennessee and you put up 27 on them and you look like a very good football team. And we're back on the moon. We want to go to the Super Bowl, all of this stuff. And then they play Baltimore. They lose to Baltimore almost in the same fashion that they beat Tennessee in, and we want everybody fired again, and we want everybody gone, and it's a reevaluation of Kevin's ability to coach and all of this, and oh boy, we already lost this 49ers game in our head. No chance coming off the bye playing the 49ers at home. Browns win that game. We back on the other angle talking about how this defense can get the Super Bowl and all this, and we gonna get Deshaun Watson back this week, and we gonna be amazing, and then Deshaun Watson comes back, doesn't look good, but they find a way to win, and now we think we a team of destiny, and we lose this game, and now we back to wanting to fire everybody. This was just a regular close loss. Could things have gone better? Absolutely. But you can make the same argument for the Seattle Seahawks, that things could have gone better for them, right? They could have not gotten 2 defensive hands to the face penalties to keep those drives going. Could things have gone better? Could there have been better play calls? Yes. But does that mean that the whole operation is cooked? No. Good teams lose games like this all the time. Bad teams don't come back from getting 17 put on you in the first quarter. Good teams do that. I know it's hard to see when you're reacting to a loss, but look at the whole picture of this game. Look at where they were in the first quarter and where this game ended. That's the sign of a good team. For years, we wanted a team that would fight. No matter what the situation. This team on their 3rd quarterback of the season. DeJuan Jones done went out. Nick Chubb been out the whole year. But yet they find a way to keep all of these games competitive and win most of them. This week, they didn't win it. That's tough. But we all knew that this was an unlikely win against Seattle. It was a tough game on the road, back-to-back road games, first road game on the West Coast. It was tough. It was a tough ask. They almost gave it to you. But don't let the fact that they almost gave it to us make us not appreciate the effort it took to get to this place with this team in the current state that it is. You know, Cam Mitchell's drop pick 6 is a great example of what I'm talking about in a smaller form. A corner gets in a corner who is only in the game because of injury, gets an opportunity to make an incredible play, but he drops it. You still get off the field. It still forces a punt. It's still a positive overall play. But since he dropped it, people are mad at him because of what it could have been. But we so focused on that we don't appreciate the fact that Cam Mitchell came fresh off the bench and made a big play on third down for you. We worried about the other one. Oh, he could have done this. Well, what did he do? We so worried about how this offense could have overperformed more that we're not even focused on the fact that they came back from a lead we thought was insurmountable in this game. They came back from 14 with PJ Walker and Pierre Strong leading the charge. That's impressive. That's impressive from a standpoint of the people in that room. That's impressive from a standpoint of that offensive unit. And it's impressive from a coaching standpoint. You can disagree with some of the stuff in the micro. Absolutely. You can always disagree with some of the stuff in the micro. You can watch any coach, Mike Tomlin, Andy Reid. You'll find stuff to disagree with how they do stuff. That's why every team wants to fire the coach, or every fan base wants to fire the coach. But if you look at the bigger picture, you're fine with what you saw. You would have loved to get a win, but you're fine with what you saw. Don't get so wrapped up in the fact that they could have almost won that game that you don't appreciate the fact that they could have almost won that game on the road against a first place team in the hardest place to play on the road in PJ Walker. Don't let that make you forget that happened. And don't let people say, oh, you're making excuses when you're just stating what actually happened. That's what you're doing. You're just stating what actually happened when you say that. People can make it seem like a bad thing, but that's what happened. I think if I would have told you that would have been the situation before the game, nobody would have been upset. Now, in that situation, the expectations aren't high for the offense. The expectations for the offense were 20 points. The expectations are high for this defense. We think they're the best defense in the league. We think that they're the best defense in the NFL. We think this is the best defense we've seen in modern football in quite some time. Well, if you are those things, you need to find a way to at least force a field goal in that situation. You absolutely cannot give up a touchdown. That is unacceptable. The field position wasn't even that bad. Like, it was on the 40-yard line. You cannot give up a touchdown. I understand you aren't going to go 3 and out and not, like, I would have been fine with the field goal. I wouldn't have been pissed off if they would have got a field goal off. But you can't give up a touchdown in that situation if you're the Browns defense. That's not acceptable. That's under expectation for what you expect out of such a powerful unit. You want Myles Garrett to step up and make a play, even though he had to make a play earlier in that fourth quarter. You want him to get more of an impact on that game. You want Denzel Ward or Juan Thornhill or Grant Delpit to find a way to make a play on a screen play that ends the game. But what you cannot have happen is you give up a touchdown in that scenario. You lose that game in overtime, all right. But you can't give up a touchdown in that scenario. Not if you're supposed to be the best defense in the NFL. That's not the best defense in the NFL. I put up the thing where I'm like, hey, Ray Lewis in the 2000 Ravens gave up 36 points. But that stuff right there, if the 2000 Ravens were in that position, that's going to either be a 3 and out or a field goal, not a touchdown. So no more nickname for this defense. That's on hold for a little while because you can't have that happen. Now, I don't think this is a bad defense. I think this is still a really good defense, and I'm not giving up faith in this defense, but I do think they need to figure some shit out. because this was obvious that they were getting beat on basic stuff, basic play action, basic screens, basic slants, basic RPOs. It wasn't nothing crazy that they was throwing at you. Like Shane Steichen doing it to you, I understand. But this week, nothing crazy was happening to you. You just was getting beaten, put out of place easily. Got to figure some shit out there. Got to. Not saying anybody need to be fired. Not saying anybody need to be benched. But they do need to figure some stuff out before they go to play Arizona. And then we bring it back to that conversation. Let's look at the big picture, right? We don't look at the micro. We don't look at the macro. Let's look at the big picture now, even though macro is the same thing. Big picture wise, you look at this game and you're like, okay, you would have loved to have it, because if you could have potentially gotten to 6-3 before you play Baltimore and Pittsburgh, that would have given you a really large cushion, right? That would have given you the ability to maybe even be 7-3. You feel like you're already assuming that without Deshaun Watson, you're probably not going into M&T Bank Stadium and beating the Baltimore Ravens. But you look at the rest of the season and you feel pretty good about the Browns' chances if they handle business next week. And that's important. They got to make sure they handle business next week. And with the backup quarterback, which I'm assuming PJ Walker's going to start next week. And if he doesn't start, I'm assuming he's going to play the most of the game next week. But you play the Cardinals. It's a winnable game. It's a game you got to get. Right? You lost this game. Now you got to get that Cardinals game. You get that Cardinals game, you're at 5-3. You play Baltimore, you're probably going to lose that. You're going to be at 5-4. Then you play Pittsburgh at home. They're probably going to have a backup quarterback. Kenny Pickett left that game. You have a backup quarterback. You have the game at home. You should probably win that game. If you can get to 6-4, then you play at Denver. That's an opportunity where you can check in on Deshaun, see if he can play. If Deshaun can play for the rest of the season, you got Denver, you got the Rams. Hopefully you can get both of those games, because those are both very gettable games, but those two road games back to back, you just want to make sure you get one. You get the 7 out of that bunch. Then you have the Jaguars and the Bears, both at home. Again, you want to get one at the very least, because then that'll get you to 8 wins. You play at Texas or at Houston, you want to get that one. Right? So you get the 9, you play versus the Jets. You want to get that one at home. You get the 10, and then at Cincinnati, we'll see what happens, but that's your path. That's the path for the rest of the season. So overall, it's upsetting that they lost. It's encouraging that they even put themselves in a position to win that game. And it's a bit of a mixed bag. Right? And some losses are just a mixed bag, and there's not very many huge takeaways you could take from them for the rest of the season. You just got to take it week by week. We'll see what happens next week, and I'll be here all week to cover it. But y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.